All right, it's 5 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for May 8th, 2018 to order. We have a couple announcements. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded. As well, Commissioner Dan Drake is participating remotely as his physical attendance is unreasonably difficult. So we have him on the speakerphone, and as such, all votes tonight will be taken by roll call. With that, we'll move on to the published agenda. Are there any comments on the agenda as drafted? Hearing none, we'll accept that by unanimous consent. We have draft minutes for the April 10th, 2018 Commission meeting. Are there any comments on the draft minutes? Hearing none, we'll also adopt those by unanimous consent. We have the release of several executive session minutes, which I think just for the public, I should list them out. February 15th, 2014, 4/14/15, 5/12/15, 1/10/17, 6/13/17, 7/11/17, 8/8/17, 9/12/17, 10/10/17, 11/14/17, 12/12/17, 1/9/18, and 2/13/18. We would entertain a motion to release the described executive session minutes.
So I have one comment.
Yes.
The first one is February 25th. And here it says February 15th.
Okay, so we'll accept that correction. Thank you for catching that. Is there a motion to release those minutes? Executive session minutes.
So moved.
And is there a second? Commissioner Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Topham?
Aye.
Commissioner Glanzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Drake?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We have two warrants for ratification, April 18th and May 2nd. Is there a motion to ratify those two warrants?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Glanzer?
Aye.
Mr. Drake? Mr. Drake?
Aye.
On the warrants? I vote aye as well. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to pending leases and contracts as set forth on Exhibit 1. Mr. Rafter?
We have a number tonight. The first one is a license agreement with Jet East Corporate Aviation. That's for aircraft maintenance, and it's an annual business fee of $1,500. Next is a contract with the Harris Corporation, also known as Excelis, for $49,500 for a 3-year contract for flight tracking software. It's the public view that we use on our website. Next is a contract with McFarland Johnson for $23,500 for task order number 6 to remove and replace airfield pavement markings. We also have a contract, another one with McFarland Johnson for $100,000 for task order 7 for the rates and charges study test. It's 100% DOT reimbursable. We have a COBO contract for $376,700. It's a low bid on the AIP project that has installed the emergency backup generator. Again, funded FAA 80%, MassDOT 5%. Next is a contract with Nantucket Party People for $17,000. It's a seasonal hold room tent, a 20 by 40 tent, and it's to furnish, install, and disassemble in the fall the tent that we're using to expand the hold room. We have a contract with Jacobs Engineering Group for $46,200 for professional services to install the emergency backup generator. That's the engineering piece of that project. And again, FAA eligibility at 90%, DOT at 5%. Next is a lease with American Airlines. It's a seasonal airline lease, $6,960 plus a $1,500 annual business fee, and that's for their terminal office space. The next is a lease with Republic Airways doing business as American Eagle, and it's $12,000 seasonal airline agreement, $1,500 business fee plus landing fees. Then we have a lease with Retrix Aviation for $32,280. It's their annual airline lease plus the $1,500 business fee and landing and freight. Next is a lease with JetBlue for $18,000. It's a seasonal airline agreement plus $1,500 business fee and landing fee. Next is a lease with Bamber Trucking for $45,755. It's a 15-year lease with 3 5-year renewal options and a $1,500 business fee for a lease of land in the bunker area. We also have a lease with Nantucket Septic for $45,738, and that's another bunker road lease, 5-year lease with 5-year renewal options plus a $1,500 business fee. And the last is a beach license with Athlete Fitness, $1,500 annual business fee for exercise classes on Belvedere Beach.
Are there any questions on any of the pending leases or contracts?
No.
I had one, Mr. Rafter. On the very last one, I know we had worked on sort of the terms of the classes in the beach last year and the timing. Did you have any complaints or any issues about that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Good.
They were very good at keeping their hours.
Okay, great. I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the pending leases and contracts.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Drake?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you. Moving on to pending matters, Mr. Rafter.
On the general fund and Brookfield assets, there's status quo, no movement on either one of those. The third is the crew quarters development, and the next step in that will be a financial analysis looking at potential alternatives to hopefully begin the crew quarters project and, how the financing may take place. Let me move on to T-hangers.
Just real quick on crew quarters, is there any anticipated timeline for sort of the next step?
It's going to be driven, in terms of the financial analysis?
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have that done probably by the end of July. I have some information I have to gather some more in terms of estimated cost for site work and things of that nature.
So perhaps the August meeting?
We'll have some financial discussion on that, yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions from anybody on any of the pending matters? Hearing none. Yes, on to the T-hanger discussion, please.
On the T-hanger analysis, staff looked at 3 methods of operating the T-hangers. Status quo with a single entity tenant, possibility of an association or organization lease, and the third was operating the T-hangers ourselves as the airport operator, and using a number of criteria from financial expense, revenue, maintenance, governing control, a number of different criteria we looked at. We believe it's in the airport's best interest to maintain or continue or take over the operation and maintenance of the T-hangers at the expiration of the lease in November. And I think that is also in the benefit of the operators as well. We're going to work to refine some of the parameters and policies as we move forward if the commission accepts that recommendation.
Any input or discussion from the commissioners on the recommendation? Public, anyone want to?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may, from my perspective, it makes sense to me for the airport to take over the management of these T-hangers. I think it gives us a lot more flexibility and the option of more revenue. It will require some work, though, on our part.
Well, and I'll be honest, Mr. Chairman, we looked at the revenue, but we didn't consider that as a driving factor in terms of making money on this. We were considering setting it up possibly as its own call center because there is some maintenance requirements and things too. So it was given consideration, but it wasn't a driving force. We were, that's not what put us over the top. I just want to let you know it's not. There will be some additional revenue, But there is also some additional expense, so I would say there is going to be a net benefit, but we're not looking to, I should say, gouge anybody either.
And what is the, or your plan for the next steps?
Next steps are we're going to be looking at what the recommended rates would be and what the policies for use may be. For example, there's, a number of questions in terms of right of first refusal. Somebody gives up their hangar, somebody sells their airplane, trying to address the questions that may come up, where it fits in our overall waiting list in terms of, if somebody wants to move out of a joint use hangar into a T hangar if one becomes available, and trying to address the different scenarios and policies that we're going to need to operate that, as well as those items that may be part of a lease, so like a term sheet for a lease. Maintenance, we want to make sure we have, and I apologize, should have mentioned this earlier, the existing tenant is a very good tenant. She's been very diligent about keeping them up, pays on time, everything. We want to make sure that they're maintained in a satisfactorily, or a way or means satisfactory to the users. So we may have to enter into a long-term maintenance agreement for doors and things like that. So we're going to review all those types of items and draft a term sheet for a lease that we would then send on to legal. So I'll bring back a draft term sheet to the commission for that.
Thank you. You see that we have some interested parties. We would accept comment if you are interested.
Thank you. I'm Steve Cheney.
Would you just cover the microphone though, please?
Thanks, Steve Cheney, part of the North Ramp T Hangar Association. My question is, and I don't know if you can answer this today, but am I correct in understanding that there's an FAA charter that restricts the amount charged if the town is to offer the T hangars on their own as a lease? That's based on the expenses of the maintenance of it, et cetera, but that it's not, the charter is designed so that the airport itself is not supposed to charge be profitable with these T hangars.
I think I know what you're asking, and I'll give my opinion, but I would have to consult with our professionals on that. My understanding, and I think what you're saying is, there's different methodologies for rate setting structures at airports, and what you're referring to is a full residual. So in other words, whatever the costs are, it's prorated back to the users. And that would be a full residual cost center if we were to establish that way. That's one approved methodology. We are going through a full-blown rates and charges. That was when the contracts was just approved, to look at all the methodologies for establishing our rates. Currently, the airport operates under what's known as a compensatory methodology, where the airport takes the risk and establish the rates and pay off whatever the entire airport is. So I don't want to say you're incorrect, but that is one acceptable methodology, yes.
I see. So it's possible that the airport can determine what to charge on your own, and if that, it can, you can be profitable with.
We can, but again, we have to have a public hearing as well when we establish those rates or change any rates associated with it. So we're going to have another public hearing process once we establish rates for the hangars.
Got it. Will the public hearing be like one of the standard airport commission meetings? Is that what you mean?
Normally,
Yes.
yes.
Normally, okay. Either of you gentlemen have any comment?
And I will just make this comment that our interest in the T hangars is trying to encourage general aviation development. So,
Okay, thank you.
Sustainably.
yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nothing else on the T hangars. We will expect this on a future agenda and obviously be working on it and keep in touch, and
Yep.
welcome to keep coming to the meetings and appreciate your input. The Air Service Incentive Program discussion.
In your packet is our Air Service Development Program, or incentive program, rather. The FAA only allows them to have a term of 2 years, so ours is getting ready to expire. I would recommend that we continue with the existing Air Service Incentive Plan. And also, as a handout, Jamie has prepared a report that indicates essentially what the benefits to the airlines have been. We don't have, it's a fairly difficult puzzle to create, but we can do it over time of what the benefits back to the airport were, but I can assure you that the offset of what was given to the airlines was made up through PFCs, entitlement funding, landing fees, and fuel. So we're still making money on it, but we're incentivizing the airlines to expand their service and continue with new routes. And we just another note, we have American Airlines has requested that they would like to take advantage of the incentive program if it is in place again. And we have a carrier, it's not yet public knowledge yet, but may also be requesting another incentive for some additional service they may be performing. You may require this.
All right, the things that are listed in that sheet carrying over to the next year, any of the incentive payments that are currently in effect, are there any currently in effect?
I think there's one, Dan, I believe it's the American LaGuardia, if I'm not mistaken, that carries over one more year if we were to extend it, I think. Or no?
A new Charlotte service is what they're asking for.
They've requested it for Charlotte, and as I said, there's another carrier that has discussed New City with us that would be requesting it. They'd rather not make it public yet.
Any further comment, discussion? Is there a motion to adopt the drafted air service incentive program for 2 more years?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Drake?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you. Moving on, Assistant Manager Carberg is going to give us a presentation on the package he put together for the noise abatement program.
Thank you, Noah Carberg, Assistant Manager. Through my oversight, I do not have the presentation loaded on the computer, but it is in your packets. So I would ask you to refer to that, and I'll look over Janine's shoulder. Matt?
We have an extra if anyone's interested too.
I'll take it.
Oh, thanks. Sorry.
So the first item that I'd like to review is the airport's landing fee incentive program. This is the program where our incumbent air taxi operators receive a 15% landing fee reduction for achieving 85% compliance with the noise abatement routes. So I've appended a number of stats. With 2 full fiscal years and 2 partial years of the program, we've had continual very high compliance rates with AMA, which is the Airline for Marine Home Center, Cape Air, and Rectrix, even though they have not scored well during fiscal year 17, a new airline, learning the routes, training pilots, they've been consistently 78%, 81%, 82% compliant for a few months. They're hovering around that line. It's not for a lack of effort. I'm in contact with their 2 chief pilots. They're concerned when they don't meet compliance, and it's something that they do want to meet for the program. And for a state of reference, I've listed non-program general aviation aircraft are roughly between 47% to 55% compliant with the routes throughout the study periods. In fiscal year 17, we rebated $28,278 in landing fees to the airlines. That's down a little bit, and I believe that's down mostly from a reduction in Cape air traffic. As far as program statistics for fiscal year 17, we audited over 3,300 operations, which consisted of 260 hours of flight time. I've also included 2 figures of noise complaint summaries. The airport has a call-in number, email address, and an online complaint form for fielding noise complaints. Looking back through from fiscal year 13, I've shown the annual number, the monthly number of noise complaints with fiscal year 18 in purple. Again, the strongest metric for noise complaints, whether it's Nantucket, the Vineyard, Chicago O'Hare, is aircraft operations. We are in an era of declining aircraft operations. Noise complaints tend to track along that line as well. And then for reference, the second figure shows the average of all available years of data. The blue line is noise complaints. The orange line, which reads on the right, is noise complaints normalized by operation count. So it's noise complaints generated per 1,000 operations. You can see that we are, in our slow season, we have a very consistent noise complaint rate of less than 1 complaint per 1,000 operations. And we continue to see what I call a threshold effect in our busy season. Once operations seem to reach above a certain threshold, the rate of complaints increase. And that's held consistent. And to review our annual noise abatement efforts, the efforts that we undertake every year, usually at about this time in advance of our busy season, we send an annual noise abatement letter to about 40, we're at 41 operators, which covers about 80% of our operations, about the same level as last year. We provide full complaint investigation and follow-up. The metric that's important for airport staff is, was the complainant responded to? Did they get the information they were looking for? It's not an encouragement or a discouragement of complaints, but the important part is it's an opportunity to engage someone, give them information on air traffic, airports, how aircrafts operate. So I believe that effort is very valuable for the airport. We continue with tenant meeting notifications. We do ongoing record keeping and data analysis to see where the gaps are that we can meet. We'll be going forward again this year with our FBO catering handout. We have FBO signage that's moved from paper to digital, and we keep an APU action log for the south ramp, and I believe we had 22 entries in that log in fiscal year 17. I believe it was 19 entries in fiscal year 16. I apologize for not having the presentation up on the screen. Be happy to take any questions.
What is the catering handout? How does that deal with noise abatement?
So the catering handout, we realized, well, not realized, the driving force behind how aircrafts can operate besides FAA rules and regulations are the people in the back seat, in the back of the plane on the south ramp. The best way we decided we could reach those individuals was to put a series of noise abatement handouts. It's a rack card, 3x5x11, that explains, what an APU is, what the implications are of its use, what the noise abatement routes are. Corporate IFR flights, the pilots don't always have the decision to fly an overwater route or a noise abatement route, but pressure from the client is probably the best way that could alter behavior. So that's what we've just, it's also a really, really cheap and effective way to reach those clients.
Any other comments? Dan?
No, thank you.
I had just a couple of thoughts on this. I think that having been involved with this for a while, that the air side, you've done an excellent job, and especially the response and the education of folks that do complain. Where I think we may be able to start to make a little bit of improvement is on the ground side, on both the north and the south ramps. And one of the things that comes to mind, of course, is this year with the increase in the commercial carriers on the north ramp, and just being sure that, to the extent possible, information to them starting off on the right foot, to be using the GPUs, sort of how that might be monitored and conveyed back to them, and especially as we're just starting the season, so that I think it's easier to start off on the right foot, if you will, than it is to try to alter or change behavior to the extent possible, understanding sometimes they're underweight and whatever that isn't always under controllable, and perhaps to start to see a little bit of increase in the action log on the south ramp. I mean, 19 and 22 out of the amount of operations on that ramp, and the planes that are sitting there running with the APUs going. I think that we could probably improve that a little bit. And I think from an educational perspective, just sort of where things are kind of going, I wonder if it might help to also tie to carbon footprint and impacts related to overall environment as a result of the longer the jets are running. Perhaps that could get incorporated into the card. Again, from an educational perspective, it might just help to say, we're trying to keep the air clean in Nantucket, or some, along those lines.
We've got to be a little careful with that, Arthur, because we're making them burn more fuel by following our noise abatement rules.
Well, I was talking about on the ground, really.
No, I understand, but it cuts both ways.
I see your point. Anyway, that was all I had, just for some thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Moving on to the FAA grant acceptance, AIP number 68, to install the backup generator. Was pending on the agenda? Is that ready to go?
No.
It's not. Okay, so we'll skip that one. Mr. Rafter, we have a agenda item to discuss the rental of space for special events. Would you like to go over that?
Yes, I'd like to make a recommendation to the commission that we eliminate special events for non-tenant special events. We have one that we're processing right now that's a non-tenant that I'd like to grandfather in, but after that, we'd like to discontinue that. We are finding that it's a very lengthy process, and it is taking quite a bit of staff time between the security, the safety, the fire department permits, all the town permits they have to go through. They have to submit us a number of plans. It's a fairly lengthy process to go back and forth and have these approved. So I would like to recommend, it's not part of our core business. We certainly understand if a tenant wants to have an event, and we'll work with them to promote that. The benefit to a tenant is normally they can handle most of the security aspect of it too. So I would like to make that recommendation.
Do we get a lot of requests for?
No, I'd say maybe 2 a year, if that. We only have one right now, and that's in the fall. But again, it can be up to 100, 200 people. They have to have logistics for porta potties. They have to have the catering. We have to get their name. It has to go through town licensing. The alcoholic beverage gets involved. The fire department, location of where they're going to be, providing their food, and how far apart it is from hangars and airplanes. We also end up displacing tenants during that. We move their aircraft out. Then we have security with police, and we have to get TSA approval. So it's a fairly lengthy process to be able to do it properly.
And you've expressed that concerns other years.
Well,
Trying to work with it.
in all honesty, I think Vice Chair Gasparo expressed the concern, and I said, let's try it, and we did. But we also have been monitoring number of hours, and it's
Yes.
pretty lengthy for our staff. So.
Okay, we don't need that's just essentially a management informing us. We don't need, I don't think it's
that's what we're
policy
gonna
or
proceed with.
anything. Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion or thoughts from commissioners?
No.
Okay, thanks. Moving on to the manager's report.
On the project side of the house, the vault replacement work has restarted. It started yesterday on this project, should be completed within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The PA system is moving along. The manufacturer of the equipment, IED, is on site, and they should be complete in about 2 weeks. We're going to have you're going to hear a lot of 2 weeks here. Next 2 weeks are going to be very busy, but that should be up and operational in about 2 weeks. The ramp area 3 contractor will return the week of May 14th to complete the seal coating for that, and at the same time be doing some painting work on the ramp. Our geometry issue, there's a meeting scheduled with the FAA and subject matter experts on June 8th to review alternatives. The restaurant vestibule, I initially had it was complete, 90% complete, but according to the contractor today, he was to finish it, and he's expecting to have an inspection tomorrow and have that signed off and operational. The restaurant itself, I spoke to them. They're in the process of finalizing their move back. There were some electrical issues today that we dealt with. They're hoping that they can be open as early as the end of next week. They still need to go through their health inspection and some other things, but they're working diligently to try to get open by the end of next week. The additional capacity program, I want to just update everyone. I'm not sure if everybody's up to speed on it, but our expanded hold room, you may recall that the design was for a structured awning similar to a lot of the restaurants that you'll see on the island. Unfortunately, after bidding it twice, and not the first time, the one bidder did not complete the required documents, so we had to reject that. The second time we received no bids. We then petitioned the Attorney General's office for an emergency waiver, and they granted that, and we proceeded to try to award it, but the companies had issues obtaining their bonds, so we were unable to award it to them. So the plan B is a modified version of it, which will be a fenced-in area with a tent, and that's what the rental tent was for earlier, the contract. So we're proceeding with that, and that is to be up and operational by June 14th, so a little more than 2 weeks. But it will have lighting in it, it will have full functionality for the airline, and it'll be a big relief for our congestion in the hold room. We also are working on, and I shouldn't say, I say we, I'm going to give the credit to Noah. Noah has been championing this effort all winter long and moving the ball down the road, so I appreciate his help. The 5th position for commercial aircraft parking, we're going through and just verifying all FAA approvals, and we're going to look to have that painted when the contractor comes back to do the north ramp finalization. All the podiums and relocation and additions have been completed. The ticket counter reallocation relocations, that's all the data work's done now. And again, I give Noah a lot of credit. He's been working on it for several months. It's behind the scenes stuff that you don't see, but it's very complicated, moving one airline to another and all their data and cables and signs and you name it. So that's all done. JetBlue began service last Friday. They're up and operational. They have 5 positions. They have their new kiosks in. United has been relocated, and Delta relocated. American stayed the same. So we're ready for them this summer, hopefully. On the RFP and bid status, we received one proposal last week for the Hangar 5. They're being reviewed, that will be reviewed, and hopefully next month we'll have that for award. On the old FBO flat roof building, we received one expression of interest from Fly Blade Inc. We prepared a term sheet and sent it to them, and we're waiting to hear back from them. We received comments back on the airport gas and are continuing negotiations with them, and we will be issuing the RFP shortly for Sun Island Road. Any questions before I go on to operations?
I had a question when you were talking about the restaurant. What was the electrical issue?
There were, when they were plugging some of the equipment in, there were either GFI outlets or breakers that were popping. And we had an electrician look at it, and he indicated that the system was good, But there was apparently, I think it was one cooler that may have had a short that they're going to be working on. The restaurant operator is going to be working on that.
And how is there to grab and take and run or whatever?
The grab and go,
Grab and go.
I think may be a little behind the opening because it's a whole new permit process with the town and everything. So they want to get the restaurant up and operational, get the equipment out of that area, and then set that up. And they're going to be submitting an alteration application for some electrical work in there too, to add some refrigerators and things.
Thank you.
On the operations side, we are currently in the process of our airport certification inspection. It began yesterday morning at 10 o'clock and ended at 11 o'clock last night. Started back up this morning and will continue through tomorrow. The out brief will take place at about 11 o'clock. The security terminal manager replacement, Mr. Tallman's replacement. I'm not sure. I just want to make sure the commission is up to date on the status of that. We had made an offer to the top candidate. He rejected it. We made an offer to the second candidate. She accepted it. Came in and shadowed Bob for a little while and then had some issues with regard to relocating to the island and was unable to accept the position and notified us about a week before Mr. Tallman's retirement. So again, Noah put together a team effort and a plan, and we're working that with some existing staff, splitting up some of the duties, taking on a number of different tasks and making the necessary requirements to meet our regulations, as well as, you may recall, I mentioned that Mr. Tallman took on a number of duties over the years that were outside of security, maintenance items. So we brought in the maintenance department, and we're carving out those sections. Relations with the airlines, Noah's picking up some of that. The actual compliance with the documents and regulations, Dave Sylvia and Linda True from the staff, who is an airport security coordinator, is going to be handling those things. So it's truly a team effort, and they're really all pitching in, and I appreciate all their help. And Joreen Partita will be named the acting airport security coordinator because by regulation we're required to have that. So Joreen will be the ASC, and the deputy, or alternate rather, airport security coordinator will be Linda True. David Sylvia has obtained his airport security coordinator certificate, and Noah will be also doing that. So, and we will continue. We're going to advertise nationwide now for the position, but we're not sure with the housing situation if that's going to turn up any results. I anticipate that we will have in place this team operation for a period of 2 to 3 months, and during that we're also going to then evaluate if there's a possibility of reconstructing the position and carving out the functions a little differently, which may make it easier for some other folks and work on our opportunities there. So next was our advertising, and there's a handout. Katie Perales here has been doing a tremendous job. You can see just in new contracts this year that we have a revenue stream of $59,890, and that's on top of the prior year contracts, so which was about another $24,720. So most of the FY17 contracts will renew. I believe it's going to be probably closer to 20,000, but tremendous progress going from 20 basically up to about $80,000 in revenue there. So thank you, Katie. Great job.
Thank you, Katie.
On the revenue side also, our Daffodil weekend results are in, and they're very favorable. Sales are up 57% over last year. It's the best one since we've been keeping records. The Nantucket Flying Association camp has asked us again to support their operation. It will take place the week of June 25th, and we'll work to coordinate as many of their requests as possible for static aircraft display. It just comes at a very challenging time because it's right up against the 4th of July holiday. So we'll do our best to accommodate whatever we can with them. Any questions?
Mr. Rafter, can we ask them in the future to try and schedule it at least the week before?
We will pursue that request again, yes.
The problem's going to be, I think, school.
The kids are still in school.
How about the week after July 4th, or is that too late for them, I wonder?
I don't know. I'll talk to Betsy and see if we can do something. It's just one of those challenging things, but at the same time, it's a rewarding thing. So, you know, if we're going to make an effort, I'd rather put it into that than a special event for something that's not even related to the airport.
Correct.
So we'll continue to work with them as much as possible.
The kids love it.
It's a great opportunity. I mean, great experience for the kids. They will be doing drones also this year, which 5 of us, myself, and 4 others from staff participated in a drone class last week, and very enlightening for us. We looked at it from the commercial perspective and public use, and what the requirements are, and how to know who can go where, and that type of thing. So it is a good event. I mean, it promotes aviation, and that's what we're in the business of. So, on the statistics side, operations are down 50.7% for the month and 15.9%. March was a very challenging month with weather. You're going to see throughout here a number of declining numbers for the month, with the exception of one that's going to be very positive. General aviation was up 29% over March. The enplanements were down 18.3%, and for the year down 3.4%. Cape Air saw a 12% decrease, while Nantucket Air had a 29% decrease. Trade winds down 33%, and Retrix down 19% over last March. Again, a number of weather events and just days when they couldn't fly. Not necessarily directly related to the airport, but predominantly winds and issues like that. Cape Air saw a 31% decrease in their Boston market. New Bedford traffic continues to see a significant increase. It's 172%, but 230 passengers in 1 month, an increase. Last month was another significant increase, so New Bedford's showing good numbers there. The Hyannis market was down 12%, or 456 passengers, with Cape Air down 35%, Nantucket Air down by 29%, and Retrix increasing by, I don't know if I have this number right. No, something's wrong with that. It's down 19%, I think. The Vineyard traffic was down 20%. And the good news is the fuel for March was up 38.5%, year-to-date 6.5%. And for April, the jet fuel was up 27.3%. So again, operations and things are declining, but our sales are up. Don't ask me to explain it. It's a phenomenon. Avgas was up 28.5%, and year-to-date down 15.7% for March. And then for April, Avgas was up, again, 28.7%. Freight is down 18.4%. Again, I think some of that had to do with weather. Year-to-date, it's still up 3.7%. And the noise, there were no complaints for March. Any questions on statistics before I move to personnel? On the personnel side of the house, seasonal positions, we have advertised for and have openings for a gate guard, seasonal custodian, and a seasonal maintenance worker. We also have an opening for a full-time maintenance position. We've received some applications and we're in the process of reviewing them. And our maintenance team has been short-staffed recently due to personal-related items, illnesses, and the open position. So I will give them credit. They've been doing a yeoman's job. In the past week, they had the markings project that they had to work on, and they were there from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, 5 days a week. Actually, I think it was 6. They were out there Saturday. They got Sunday off, and then they're back again for the inspection last night until 11 o'clock. So they've been working very hard covering with the handful of people that they have. That's my report, with the exception I have a request for 2 travel events. One is the Northeast Chapter's annual conference to be held August 12th through 14th in Jersey City, New Jersey. Everybody wants to go there. And the next is the National Airports Conference, that is to be held September 16th through 18th in Anchorage, Alaska. And I will ask for your permission there because I am the chairman of that event as well. So I have to get to that one.
Is there any,
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Enjoy your trips.
I vote aye.
Sorry, Mr. Drake. Okay, is there any comments or questions on anything that the manager just reviewed? Hearing none, we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Mr. Drake?
Nope.
Okay.
I have one. If and when we get to the T hangar decision or any voting, I'll recuse myself because we have an interest in like we have our airplane stored there.
Okay.
Wish I told that earlier. Well,
Oh.
other people were here.
I had one thought or comment that we had talked about earlier, I think, trying to have some sort of small open house or something along the lines with the restaurant. And I was wondering if you had any further thoughts.
We discussed it with the restaurant. They asked that we hold off at least in about a week or so after their opening.
Yep.
They want to make sure that everything's up and running properly. So we will try to formulate that, but we're running right up against some holiday deadlines too.
So I was thinking the same thing. So I just wanted to throw out sort of just a general discussion or idea.
Well, if I may,
Yeah.
what we've discussed internally was we may not be able to do mini airport day. We certainly want to do some incentives for the flying public and that type of thing to get the word out that the restaurant's open. If we can, we'll do a short 4-hour truck display or something. So
Yep. I just was kind of quickly looking and thinking the same thing. You want to make sure they're up and running. We want to get us out of any particular holiday weekends. Perhaps Saturday, June 9th. I know I'm just spitballing here, but I really think it would be nice to have, like you say, the mini airport day. And maybe it's not a holiday weekend. It gets you past the other holidays. It's before the more stuff.
when I say holidays, I should say special events. Wine festival, I think it should be done by then.
Wine Fest is done. I don't think it's
Early
filmed.
June, usually the first 2 weeks in June are pretty good to do something like that.
That's why I figured you get past.
week
You don't want to do it the
yeah.
weekend right after Memorial Day. You're just everything's settling back down. So I'm just kind of throwing, and it's ahead of our next commission meeting. I mean, ultimately, it's sort of up to you, but I just wanted to convey just some thoughts I had on that, like a 10 to 3 kind of a thing. If you could do the touch a truck, if you could coordinate with the airport, if there was any chance everybody would ever get a jet, I mean, that would be the kind of thing that would really, I don't know. I'm dreaming a little because I don't get to, but
we'll try anything.
just to promote, that seemed to me like it might fit into
That's a good idea.
before you start get, the weekend after it gets, I think, into Father's Day. And,
I need to double check with operations because I know they passed through one class of seasonals training. They usually do another week, and I don't know when that is, but Saturday it should be open.
And
we use the seasonal stuff.
any of the, the air taxis, if any of them, because it helps promote their business as well. If you reached out to them and we figured out a way to sort of fence off a little area outside, I don't know exactly. I know that's it takes more security, but, it could be a win-win.
Yeah, and our operations superintendent, Preston Harriman, he came up with an idea and has some good thoughts on how to do it. So
I just wanted to throw it out there. I'd love to see it happen, but I'm not asking for an air show either.
No, but we want to do something that it's a good point. We want to bring the community into it and invite them out and reinvigorate our relationship with them. So
I'm going to just make one comment. I think that could be graduation weekend. I'm not saying that would involve or deter people, but it could. Just a thought. Sunday might be a better day, but maybe it would be better for the crew or our staff.
No, but that's something we should look at. It's a good point. What's that? It is graduation? That is this Saturday? So maybe we look at the
It
Sunday.
usually is on a Saturday, and it's usually in the afternoon.
Okay.
That was all that I had. Did anybody else have anything further?
No.
Hearing not, we have no further public comment. We have no public. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session per General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to review the executive session minutes enumerated on the agenda for possible release, possible review and release. Clause 3, discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation with respect to the AIP projects, which chairs determine an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the commission. And under clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, which also an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the commission, not to return to open session. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Drake?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, everybody.